Hey, friends, and welcome to another episode of Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club, where our motto is that what's said in Fight Club goes everywhere, all over the world. Katie, what are we going to talk about today, and who's our special guest?
We have the incredible honor and privilege of being able to spend time with Richard Painter, who you know much better than I do. I am just somebody who's fangirling over the fact that we have Richard here today. But Richard, you, Norm, yourself, and Virginia Cantor, an incredible member of Democracy Defenders Fund as well, filed an incredible complaint against and concerning the Department of Justice and the failure of the DOJ to be able to adequately justify the legal reasons behind these extrajudicial killings that are happening in the Caribbean Sea. And so it is an honor for us to spend time with Richard Painter today.
Richard, tell us about the complaint. You, the Bush White House Ethics Council, myself, the Obama White House Ethics Council, bipartisan, and we threw in Ginny Cantor, the Clinton White House Ethics Council, for good measure. The three of us filed this complaint for an ethics investigation. Tell the folks what it's all about.
Well, this is a complaint to the Office of Professional Responsibility in the Department of Justice. I'm assuming there still is an Office of Professional Responsibility in the Department of Justice. One wonders sometimes these days. But this is a complaint about Department of Justice advice that was given to the Trump administration, to the Department of Defense, to the White House, apparently saying that these strikes on boats in the high seas are legal. These strikes are clearly illegal under international law, under United States law. This is simply an extrajudicial killing. If you suspect that somebody is running drugs, then you could stop and search and seize their boat in American territorial waters and sometimes under some circumstances in international waters. You don't simply blow the boat out of the water and kill everyone aboard. And in one instance, they took a second strike, had orders to take a second strike, apparently, and kill everybody, all the survivors who were in the water. This is illegal, and any Justice Department lawyer who advised that they could do this ought to be held accountable. And that's why we have an Office of Professional Responsibility in the Justice Department. Now, we've been here before 20 years ago with torture memos that were generated in the Justice Department after the 9/11 attacks. That brought great shame on our country. One of the common denominators here is that they've kept this memo confidential, so I haven't had a chance to read it. I assume it's been classified. Same thing we had in the torture memos. That was all classified, and they certainly didn't want to show that to the White House ethics lawyer back then. So this is a very, very concerning situation and requires an investigation by the Department of Justice Office of Professional Responsibility, and also Congress. And we've sent copies of this letter up to Congress. They ought to start having hearings on this. And I understand some of the Republican members of Congress are getting quite concerned about what's going on because this is a violation of U.S. law and international law, and it needs to stop.
Richard, I just wanted to ask in this instance, we've talked about, for example, the JAG Corps having its lawyers providing legal advice, sometimes in real time when these things are going on. Is there any obligation for coordination from a legal position for JAG lawyers and lawyers at the Department of Justice?
Well, the JAG lawyers need to give the advice that the best advice they can based on the law. I can't see how you could possibly come to the conclusion that these strikes are justified under U.S. law or under international law. But if there's any doubt about such matters, the Judge Advocate General lawyers in the military should consult with the Department of Justice, with the Office of Legal Counsel. And I understand that the advice has been given by the Department of Justice that this is okay. And if so, that puts us right back where we were with the torture memos. This is the kind of thing that needs to be investigated right now by the Office of Professional Responsibility in the Justice Department, by the Inspector General of the Department of Defense as well, and also by the United States Congress.
Richard,
Norm, is there anybody? Oh, sorry, Norm, I wanted to ask you kind of quickly. Is there anybody who fills the role that you, Richard, and Ginny filled in those respective administrations? And I'm not saying this in jest. I'm serious. You guys are all stepping up to file this complaint. Isn't there somebody who's minding the till in the Trump administration right now in this capacity?
If there is, he or she is probably in the witness protection program, because it's the most dangerous job in the world to be giving ethics advice to this crowd. Richard, I wanted to ask you a question. In our ethics complaint, our call for investigation, we point to there's over 70 footnotes, the sources we survey, the expert opinion. You can't really find too many experts who approve of this. And I want you to unpack the reasoning of those experts as you yourself so expertly did in writing that complaint with us. First, the White House says we're in a non-international armed conflict, so you're allowed to kill people. But we're not in a non-international armed conflict. Even if we were in a non-international armed conflict, basically a clash with another country or its instrumentalities. Even if we were, you couldn't kill civilians, and it's civilians on these boats. But because we're not, the experts say that this is just like applying the death sentence to somebody who's committing a crime against a civilian. You can't do that. Will you explain that reasoning a little more? What is a non-international armed conflict? Why aren't we in one? Why can't you kill civilians?
What example of non-international armed conflict would be our conflict with Al-Qaeda after 9/11, our conflict with ISIS, a conflict with a terrorist organization. We're not in that kind of a conflict with Colombian or Venezuelan drug cartels. Every criminal enterprise is not a non-international armed conflict. Otherwise, we would say that going after the mafia is a non-international armed conflict, or going after Antifa or prosecuting Democrats. I don't know what the latest vision they have of a non-international armed conflict, but this is it stretches that beyond that term, beyond imagination. But second, when you have to conduct yourselves according to the law, and that's what we got into after 9/11 when we were in a non-international armed conflict with Al-Qaeda. That doesn't mean that you go and torture people. It doesn't mean that you murder civilians who are not participating in the acts of hostility. And none of this makes any sense about what the administration is saying. That's why we need to see this letter. I can't believe that Justice Department lawyers would prepare a memorandum saying this is okay, that this is legal under U.S. law or under international law. But then again, if 20 years ago you asked if would it be possible that Office of Government, that lawyers in the Justice Department would prepare a memo saying that torture was okay, I think you'd say how in the world would they come up with that? And they managed to do that. So we need to see this legal reasoning, find out who came to these conclusions and who's been acting upon this so-called legal advice. And, really what this comes out of is the Supreme Court of the United States and Trump versus the United States said the president can't be prosecuted for crimes he commits in office. And I raised this issue in an amicus brief I filed on behalf of over a dozen national security experts about the SEAL Team 6 example. Would this give the president the license to order SEAL Team 6 to commit extrajudicial killings of political rivals? And this question came up in oral argument. Only the dissenting justices raised that issue in their dissent. The 6 in the majority did not. Pam Bondi, as an attorney for other amici who came in the side of former President Trump at the time, argued, oh, don't worry about it. The people in the military are never allowed to obey an illegal order. They will never obey an illegal order. Don't worry about the SEAL Team 6 example. Don't worry about war crimes. Just give Donald Trump what he wants, which is the immunity he's asking for here. Well, here we are. What is the Attorney General of the United States doing right here and now to prevent war crimes from taking place, even when there is no war? These are extrajudicial killings. What is she doing to prevent it? Or is her Office of Legal Counsel simply telling the president, the Justice Department, and the Defense Department that this is okay?
Richard, is there individual culpability or liability for the lawyers themselves for dispensing this advice, knowing that it is wrong?
Well, there should be, but we went through this with the torture memos, where the Office of Professional Responsibility did investigate and found there were violations of rules of professional conduct. And then the higher ups in the Justice Department reversed that decision, and there was no reference of this matter to the state bar, including the state bar in California, where two of the lawyers were barred. One of them, John Yoo, is on the law faculty at the University of California, Berkeley. He's still there to this day. Now, fortunately, John Yoo has come out against these extrajudicial killings. I guess being the author of torture memos was enough for him. So I think, must have got on the right side of this one.
Even the author, one of the authors involved in the torture memo, says this OLC memo might be too much.
Well, that is a pretty bad memo, because that torture memo was way over the top. That this is the kind of thing that really puts the United States in a very difficult position internationally. When you have lawyers saying that torture is okay, then 20 years later we have the Justice Department, if they're coming along and saying that extrajudicial killings are okay. We have lawyers who are willing to do anything to please the president. And I know the Office of Legal Counsel has been this way for a long time. They did this under Joe Biden. They told me to forgive all those student loans, which was clearly wrong. But I'm telling you, if you got your choice between OLC lawyers who tell the president you can write off billions of dollars of student loans, as opposed to an OLC that tells the president he can just blow up boats and kill people, I think I'll take the first group of OLC lawyers.
Richard, we're so grateful to you for being with us today on Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club. Remember, friends, as a paid subscriber to The Contrarian, you don't only get to enjoy the content in Legal Fight Club, but all profits go to support our pro-democracy litigation like this ethics complaint that we filed today. So you get to be in the fight for our Constitution, for American democracy, and for the idea of our country. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Legal Fight Club. See you soon.